Hello and welcome to episode Lucky 7 of Game Day Gameplay, the sports segment of Console Space. I'm your host, Sean Colangelo, joined as always by the man I envy the most in the wintertime, Todd from Florida. What's up, man?
Not much, man. Just hanging out, doing the old winter thing.
Did you get your furnace fixed?
Yes, yeah, that's all good to go. Thankfully, because it's been in the 20s all week. But we're supposed to get back up into Florida winter of 50s soon, so you know.
Nice. We've pretty much been in the single digits up here in the Berg, although I think starting next week it's actually going to climb back into the 30s, which will feel like a heat wave in comparison.
Oh yeah.
But, wintertime on Three Rivers, it's bound to be cold. So,
Oh, yep. No question about that.
all right. So we were just talking off the air, if you will, a minute ago. Not really much going on in the NBA, and a lot of stuff going on in the NFL. So we'll just kind of skip hoops for this episode. Let's start with hockey. What's up in the NHL?
I actually didn't have this one written down, but I literally just pulled up Twitter. NHL and NBC tweeted that Andrei Vasilevsky has allowed one goal over his last 247 minutes played. That means that he's had
Jesus.
4 shutouts in his last 5 games, and the other one was a one-goal game. That's insanity, man. He's on his third straight shutout. He shut out Toronto on the second for his third straight. I did not know that was going on. I haven't been paying much attention to Tampa, to be honest with you, and that's pretty crazy. That's some great goaltending play. I don't know if it's I don't know what we're looking at in terms of shot volumes or anything like that, but either way, that's still pretty insane.
Well, I know the other night they shut the Leafs out, which is
Yeah, that was on the
no,
second.
which is no small task because they have a lot of firepower up there in Toronto. So
Absolutely. They shut out Columbus the game before that,
wow,
and
yeah, those
they
are good
shut out
teams.
Minnesota on the 23rd. He somehow has a 100% save percentage against the loss in Philly. I don't know if maybe he got hurt and pulled or what happened, or if he came in relief of somebody. So it might not be 4 straight shutouts. He has 4 straight shutouts himself, but the team might not have had 4 straight shutouts. So
Hmm.
it's
Still,
looking like
yeah, that's
maybe Budai got the start in Philly and got pulled or something like that. It's the only thing I can think of. But yeah, that's a great level of play from him.
well.
Anytime.
To be fair, I'd start my back up against the Flyers too, and in fact, the Penguins did.
And they
And
did, and of course he got hurt. Third
yeah.
straight game against the Flyers, we lost a goalie, but well, we'll start off with this. The All-Star vote is finished. The captains for the 4 divisional teams have been set. Not a ton of surprises. McDavid got in the Pacific, of course. Stamkos got it in the Atlantic. Subban got it in the Central. I think he got the last one too. I don't know. He's a pretty popular guy. I figured, if they were giving it out, it probably would have been Tays or something like that. But if they leave it to fan vote, Subban's a pretty popular guy with the fans. Ovechkin takes it in the Metro. Metro's got a lot of talent there. Crosby, Tavares. I'm probably leaving out some people. I'm just thinking of big names off of the Metro teams. Those are guys that I figured would be up there, and obviously Ovechkin's another one. Ovechkin seems to be a popular guy among his fan base, so I know he was close second last year when Crosby got voted in, I think. But that's what it is. Those are the four captains you got. Not really a big surprise. They're all 4 pretty big names, pretty big stars in their divisions.
Now, let me ask you this: do you think Malkin and Sid will go to the All Star game this year? Where is it, by the way?
I'm not sure where it is. I'm not sure. I'd have to look that up. Matter of fact, let me do that real quick for you while we're waiting here. Do I think they will? I honestly don't know, just because of how much hockey they played over the
Well,
last couple years. Sid went last year, didn't he?
yeah, but the crazy thing is, wasn't that wasn't that the first time that he had gone in like 10 years?
Yes.
Yeah,
I
which I
know.
mean, there
And they're not
were.
all. It wasn't always his fault. It wasn't always him backing out. I mean, he had the concussion things going on,
You're right,
some
right, right.
injuries here and there.
I mean,
It's in
he's
Tampa
definitely
this year,
bailed
by the
out of
way.
some. Tampa, okay.
Hmm?
They'll probably go. I mean, I know the one year I was in Columbus and they were just like, yeah, nah, we're good.
But I don't know why
uh,
they didn't go to that one because it's basically no travel for them. Like
that's
they can hop
true.
on a bus, or they can hop on a car and get to Columbus in an hour and a half. for Pittsburgh, but
Yeah, I mean, they've had, there have been years where they had excuses, and there have been years where they haven't, which they obviously caught some flack for. I don't really care if they go or not personally,
yeah, the All
but
Star game is so meaningless. It really is.
yeah.
It's a cool thing for the fans, but it means nothing for the players. They don't care. But let's hop into what else is going on. Nashville gets some bad news. Philip Forsberg is out 4 to 6 weeks with an upper body injury. This is actually his first injury. I think of his professional career. He had played like 300 and some games without getting hurt, and finally
Hmm.
went down. But obviously, that's a huge hole in their top six. They're going to want him back as soon as they can get him. Vegas makes a big move. They extend Jonathan Marchessault, 6 years, $5 million per, $30 million total contract. There's a lot of question, even with as good as Vegas has been, what they're going to do with the deadline. Are they going to take these guys that they drafted with the expansion draft, the UFAs, and move them? Are they going to try to keep some of the guys? This kind of signals that they're at least making a push for the playoffs this year and not planning on moving guys, because Marchessault was one of those pending free agents.
Well, I mean, they're
I
first in
don't
the
think it's
West. I don't think they're gonna start selling guys
yeah,
off.
yeah. Well, there was a train of thought of, hey, it's your first year in the league. Do you really need to make the playoffs, or do you want to start building up your capital? You know what I mean?
Mm,
Um, there was some debate about that, but I think making a playoffs in the first year in the league as an expansion team is going to do a hell of a lot more for your franchise than a couple draft picks will, in
yes,
terms of drawing
absolutely.
in fans and
Plus,
stuff. So
I mean, like while the expansion draft was going on, they stocked up on draft picks.
they did,
So
they did, yeah. It's that Columbus deal looks particularly atrocious when you realize that Carlson is leading their team in goals and has like 21 goals in
no shit.
40 some or 30 some games.
I didn't know
Plus
that.
they sent a first round pick over with them.
Wow.
Yeah, Carlson's
And
actually playing first line center for them right now.
well, what's even more hilarious about that is, didn't they do that pretty much to protect Jack Johnson?
No, they did that to protect Josh Anderson
Hmm.
mostly,
Okay.
because Anderson was the guy they were gonna basically Vegas was telling them they were gonna pick. So
Okay.
it was Josh Anderson and someone else. I think Ryan Murray was the other guy.
Was
So
Anderson was he as good for them last year? Because I mean, because honestly, up until this season, I feel like I didn't even know who that guy was.
Anderson picked up his play last year. That's when he started to raise some eyebrows.
Okay.
Last year he came in and had a pretty good year for him. That's when everyone said, okay, this kid's probably going to be something. So that's why Vegas was so interested in him, and they sent him all that big package to keep him. But now Carlson's playing at an all-star level, so it is what it is. Every team's got to lose somebody. I don't think Columbus expected Carlson to turn out as well as he has been. There's a lot of guys for Vegas that are playing way better than anyone expected them to play, so it's not like they're the only thing they got burnt with it too.
Now, let me ask you this, because on my way home, I was listening to our old pal Mark Madden, and he was talking about the contract they gave to Marchessault, and he made the point of, while he did put up 30 goals last season, the year prior to that, he was actually like up and down between the pros and the minors. So I don't think he was saying that it was a bad contract, but maybe a little, I guess, premature for lack of a better word. But they had to re-sign him sooner or later, obviously. So I don't know. What do you think of that deal?
I don't think it's a bad deal. I mean, if he put up a 30 goal season last year and he's on pace to do it again this year, if you can get a 30 goal scorer at 5 mil a year, that's not bad. That's not bad at all.
That's not bad at all,
Um,
especially if the cap increases as much as they're saying it will. I mean,
exactly,
that will actually be pretty cheap, really.
exactly,
So,
exactly. And you gotta realize that Vegas isn't gonna be really a cap team probably um, in the near future with what they've got, to build around.
you know what I
Let's
think,
look at
man?
what's that?
I was gonna say real quick. I think they'll make you know, I think they'll make it to at least the second round this year, maybe in the conference final. But it won't shock me one bit if next season They're just a dumpster fire.
Yeah, it happens. It happens a lot, to be honest with you. I mean, look at Colorado. The first year Walk came in, and was coach there. They were first in the Central. I apologize, I'm drawing a blank there. They were first in the Central, made the playoffs. The next year, they were the worst team in the league by far,
Right.
the worst team in the league. So
Yep.
it happens, man. It's not unusual. I'm looking at Marchessault's stats right now. This is only his third year that he's played any significant time in the NHL. 2012, 2013, and 2014, 2015, he only had 2 games in the league, so you can't really judge based off that.
Mm.
2015-16, he had 45 games with Tampa and put up 18 points, which isn't lighting the world on fire, but it's still not bad. And then the next year was the year with Florida. He dropped 30 goals, 21 assists, 51 points. And this year he's 15 goals, 22 assists through 35 games. So that's on pace for even better than he did with Florida. He's young enough that he's probably just one of the, he's looking at probably just hitting his stride. You know what I mean? Um, he's a little older than most guys do it, but it's still, I don't think he's going to regress to back to the AHL level. He might not be a 30 goal scorer every year. I don't think that's what you're going to get on Marchessault, but I don't think he's going to drop down to being an AHL player or anything like that anytime soon.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
But what else we got going on? Patrick Maroon for the Oilers is suspended 2 games for a high check / interference on Drew Doughty. I actually saw this hit. It's a weird one because the hit doesn't look particularly vicious, but Doughty was clearly never touching the puck, never in the play, and Maroon went straight for the hit and ended up clipping him basically on the side of the jaw with his shoulder. One of those glancing kind of hits that doesn't look as bad as it is. You know what I mean?
So what you're saying is you 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 don't think it was like intentional?
I mean, I don't think he hit him in the head on purpose. He definitely went for a check. I think he thought Doughty was going to get the puck and didn't, and was going to go shoulder to shoulder. But then he tried to pull off the last second, it looks like, and
Okay.
they caught him on the side of the mouth, like instead of hitting him shoulder to shoulder. Sometimes when you pull out of those hits, it ends up being worse because you're already too committed. You know what I mean? And you
Yeah,
end up making
it's true.
contact somewhere you don't. It's strange to say, but sometimes it is. But um, he only got 2. He doesn't have a history either. He's never been suspended, never been fined. So that probably came into the fact that he only got 2 games. Doughty also got hurt, and it was Doughty. So I'm sure that's part of the reason he got a suspension. If
Um,
he had hit, Muzzin or somebody like that, maybe it
yeah.
doesn't happen. But
Is this Maroon's first offense? Because I know he's like a tough
yes,
guy, but I don't think he's like, I mean, I don't think he's like a dirty
yeah,
player though.
yeah, it's Maroon's first offense. Like I said, he's never been suspended, never been fined. Um, so that's probably why he only got 2 for it, not something bigger. Um, like I said, it didn't look particularly vicious when it happened, but it is a late hit, or it was a hit, an interference. He didn't have the puck. It was high. It was to the head. I don't think anyone's going to get played by a 2-game suspension. It's not like they gave him 5 or 10 or something like that. And you're right, he's a tougher player. He's a power forward, known for being a little bit more physical, but I don't see him. He doesn't generally toe the line. He usually plays on the clean side of things, from what I've seen with him. So um, to me, it looked like he was going for a check, realized Doughty didn't touch the puck, tried to pull off, and ended up making contact with the head when he shouldn't have. Which, again, the onus is on the checker. You're supposed to dodge the hit the way you can, but, you know, it is what it is. I don't think it was anywhere near intentional. 2 games is perfectly fine for it. I don't think he deserves any more than that.
Yeah.
And now, the last bit of news I have for the NHL, the Rangers and the Buffalo Sabres played in the Winter Classic on the first
Mm,
outdoor
yes.
game in Buffalo. Um, pretty. It's always kind of a high affair when there's an outdoor game. A lot of media fanfare, a lot of coverage, things like that. It was kind of a weird game to have in the Winter Classic, given Buffalo's struggles in the last couple of years, and the fact that the Rangers are generally a playoff team. You'd think they'd want a more competitive matchup. Um,
Well, speaking of outdoor games, I thought it was weird that not too long ago they already confirmed that the Pens and Flyers will be playing outdoors again in Philly next year, right?
Yeah.
Now that's cool. I'm all for that, but it's it's just kind of like, well, they just played outdoors, last season, so that'll only be 2 years between that particular matchup outdoors. Whereas the Pens, they haven't played the Caps outdoors since 2011, and they,
2011, they've never played Columbus outdoors.
well,
Columbus has never been in an outdoor game.
that'll probably happen sooner than later, especially because I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. If the Penguins, if they do get into the playoffs this year, unless they flip over to the Atlantic, I think this could be the year that that the Jackets finally beat them. I mean, obviously, I
Yeah,
hope not,
definitely possible.
but I could see that, and if that does happen, that will just obviously that much more amp up that rivalry. But I would like to, again, especially because the Penguins and Flyers, they don't even feel like as much of a rivalry. You know, I don't feel it with them, anywhere near as much as I do with the Jackets or Capitals now.
Yeah,
So
it's kind of died down, and I think a lot of it has to do with the Flyers not having been a playoff caliber team, really, in late years. I
yeah,
mean,
in
I
like
know they
five
made
years.
it. They made it what, like a year ago or 2 years ago, but they got knocked out pretty quick by the Capitals in the first round.
Yeah.
So I mean, they've been a bubble team or a non-playoff team for a good while. Where the Penguins have been hot, obviously. They have the longest playoff streak in the league. The competitiveness hasn't been what it used to be. And on top of that, the Flyers have cleaned up their game a lot from where they were even 3 or 4 years ago when they had guys like Ronaldo on their team and things like that. Um, the Flyers are really kind of reinventing themselves in a way that I'm all for. They're getting away from the goons. I mean, they still got Gudis, but other than that, I mean, they're
Well,
really trying to build their team around a talented speed team
well,
instead
yeah,
of
and
the
like
Broad Street bullies that they've
you
been.
have to do that. Look at the Devils. That's what they've
Yeah,
done, and they're first in the Metro, right?
yeah, yep,
So,
yep, exactly. That's what the
um,
game's going to. Big hits, goons, enforcers. They're getting knocked out of the league and being replaced by guys that can skate fast and have hands. That's really what it comes down to. That's what the league's coming into. Honestly, what it should be. I mean, we don't need to see guys getting laid out with dirty hits left and right anymore.
yeah, but
It's
yeah, again, when the outdoor game was here against the Flyers, I went. It was awesome. It was freaking freezing, but it was
yeah,
awesome. So, like I'm all for it. It just seems weird that they're gonna repeat that particular matchup so quickly.
it
And
is in
again,
Philly this time.
well, right, but still, it's like
So I don't
it's
know
like
if maybe it was a hey this did so well, let's try to give them the same matchup and give the other home team a chance
yeah.
to.
I mean, probably,
But I
but
don't really have a problem with it. I would just it's kind of weird that it's the exact same teams. You know what I mean? Like I don't have the problem with the Pens being in two outdoor games and the Flyers. It's just weird that they're playing each other again in an outdoor game so
well,
soon.
that and like I said, it's like they haven't played the Caps outdoors in 6 years, but but the NHL was all over when they had the when they had the when they had the them against the Hawks in like 2014, or because
Yeah, it's
because
not
they're
even
so
a
hell bent.
rivalry, man.
Yeah, well, yeah, but they're so, they're so they're so set on like trying to make that this rivalry, and it's like, dude, I don't care about Chicago.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, but
I mean, they've
anyway,
never played the Rangers outdoors.
yeah, yeah,
You know, the Islanders, even though the Islanders are, I wouldn't consider the Islanders a huge rivalry of the Pens. The big three rivals I'd say of the Pens are probably Columbus, Washington, and either Philly or New York. Those teams. So I don't know why they're not trying to push that Columbus rivalry or the Rangers rivalry even more, considering those teams are more playoff caliber teams right
yeah.
now. But
I don't know, but anyways, I mean, I digress a bit there, but yeah,
uh, yeah, I was just gonna bring up, like I said, Rangers, the Buffalo Rangers beat them. Obviously, it was 3-2 in overtime. I don't think anyone really saw that coming. It was a little bizarre to me, like I said, because I thought they would make a more competitive matchup for the Winter Classic, but it is an interstate rivalry, I guess, in some ways. So, um, it was good to watch. It was fun to watch. Buffalo continues to struggle, but at least they got a point out of it and looked somewhat competitive. on the main stage there. But yeah, that's all I've got for NHL. Not really a lot more going on with there.
All right, so that will lead us into it is about time for playoff football. So
It is about time
let's
for
get
playoff
into it.
football. The regular season is over. Week 17 is in the books. Teams are in, teams are out. All the jockeying for positions done. Now it's time to see who can make it to the big dance. Before we talk about the playoffs, though, let's talk about things that happen after the season, and one of those is coaches losing their job, Sean. Um, the first one didn't actually lose his job. Bruce Arians from Arizona, the Cardinals, he is retiring. He's not getting fired. He has had some health problems recently, and he is stepping away from the game to focus on his health. He had several successful seasons with Arizona. He took them to the Super Bowl against the Steelers, I think 3, 4 years ago, somewhere in that range.
No,
So,
you said Arians, correct?
yeah, Bruce Arians.
Now, you know what? On that topic, here's the chatter that's going around the Berg.
Uh-huh.
As you know, he was the offensive coordinator here in Pittsburgh for a good while, and him and Roethlisberger had a fantastic relationship. And it was kind of
Mm-hmm.
weird when he left because they said that he was retiring, but then obviously he didn't retire. He went to Arizona. So I don't know if they just at that time wanted to get rid of him for whatever reason and wouldn't say why. So they're like, oh, he's just retiring. I mean, kind of the same thing with LeBeau. They're like, oh, he's retiring, and it's like, well, apparently he's not retiring. Um, Now, did you hear? Did you hear about what happened with Todd Haley?
Yeah, got in a bar fight.
Yes,
Perkins
he
hit him,
got
right?
yes. Apparently, went out after the New Year's game here in Pittsburgh to a bar that I've actually been to a few times called Tequila Cowboy. It's like not. It's like right next to Heinz Field, and apparently he got. Apparently his wife was just like punching dudes. I have no idea why. I don't.
Because there's
Yeah.
probably a massive amount of alcohol involved, Sean.
Well, yeah, dude, that bar is insane. That bar is like 3 or 4 bars inside of one bar. It's nuts. But at any rate, apparently she's also kind of a hothead, much like Haley is. So probably why they're married. And yeah, apparently she was seriously just punching guys, and then he got involved, and I don't know if he got pushed down or what have you, but he has a broken hip. But case in point being, this is the cherry on top of the fact that him and Ben hate each other. They hate each other.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think unless the Steelers do win the Super Bowl this year, I think you could very well see Todd Haley on his way out, and a lot of people are saying they would like to see them bring Arians back. I don't know if Arians wants to come back or continue coaching, especially if he has health problems. But that's the
I can't
latest.
see a head coach giving up a head coaching gig to come back to be an OC.
Yeah, I mean
Um,
it probably won't happen. But that's the latest word. You know, Around like a lot of the radio stations and stuff here
yeah,
in Pittsburgh.
yeah.
But freaking Todd Haley, man, he seems like a jackass.
I read that story and I was literally laughing the entire time.
Yeah.
Like, there's how are you a coach of a NFL team when you're in a bar fight on New Year's Eve? But it
Only
is
he
what it
could.
is.
Only he could pull that off.
However, speaking of coaches, we do have some head coach firings we should cover. Ben McAdoo we already covered. He was fired earlier in the year, in the middle of the season for the Giants. 4 other coaches lost their jobs after Week 17's games were finished. John Fox is out with the Bears. Dropped another 4-12 season, I believe, with the Bears. Not really much of a surprise there. They've never put up anywhere near what they should under him. Haven't really had much talent to work with, so it's not completely on him. But at some point you got to make a change. Jack Del Rio is out after a disappointing year with the Raiders. I think they finished 7-9, and this was the year a lot of people were predicting them to win the division. So um, that cost Del Rio his job there. Jim Caldwell is out with the Lions. They actually finished 9-7. He had a winning season, but they missed the playoffs again. And I think the fans there are sick and tired of being stuck in mediocrity. They want a coach that's going to come in and lead them to at least a playoff season, if not a divisional win. And then Chuck Pagano for the Colts, my team. They finally pulled the trigger. It's probably 2 years overdue. I really don't think this year is Pagano's fault because luck didn't play at all. And if you don't have your franchise quarterback, you're not going to do very well as the Packers.
Yeah,
But
it usually helps.
But honestly, I thought Pagano should have lost his job last year. So it's kind of just probably one of those things of, yeah, I get that you didn't have a lot of control over this season, but you still finished 4-12, and we needed better than that. So he's out. They're going to bring in a new coach there in Indy as well. But yeah, that's all we've got so far. It looks like pretty much everyone else is safe. They would have probably fired him by now unless something crazy happens. One of the bigger, weirder ones was Marvin Lewis keeping his job in Cincy. They actually extended him 2 years.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you what you thought about that. It's tough because it's like I don't think that's a particularly coveted spot there with the Bengals, so I can kind of see why they're like, well, I mean, he probably is the best they're gonna do.
Yeah,
But at the same time,
I
it's
honestly
like,
don't know that the Bengals have the talent to be much more than where they are in terms of like a middle 8-8, 7-9 kind of team.
um,
Um,
honestly, I feel like they could be if they weren't just a bunch of jackasses, and like that's a big part of the problem. It's like, like I understand them re-signing Lewis, but he's also his same guy that makes his team captains Vontaze and freaking Pac-Man. So,
yeah.
it's like, well, what are you saying about the culture of your locker room if those two guys are supposed to be your leaders?
Well, we all know those two guys cost them the playoff win not too long ago.
They did.
Pretty much single-handedly. So
Yeah, absolutely.
um, that is what it is. My whole thing with that is more Dalton. I don't think Dalton's a playoff quarterback. Um, Dalton's not the worst quarterback in the league by any means, but he is not a top-tier quarterback either. And the team seems to be committed to sticking with him instead of maybe trying to find someone. I'm amazed that AJ McCarron's never gotten to start to really see how he does. I don't know why they would have drafted him if they're never even given him a try over Dalton. But my whole point I'm trying to make there is I don't think the problems that since he has is Marvin Lewis. I don't think it's coaching related. So, and I think the front office probably realizes that too, and that's why they're not making a change.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
hmm And the other thing I want to mention before we go into the playoffs here, one news about a player retiring that's kind of a big name. Carson Palmer
Oh, did
has
he?
announced he's done. Yeah, Carson
Hmm.
Palmer has retired. He missed half the season this year with another injury. He was injured last year too, and has been
Oh, he's always
kind of
hurt.
consistently injured
Yeah.
throughout his career. I think he's probably hit the point in the age where he says, "All right, it's not worth it anymore." You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
uh, it is what it is. He had a pretty good career for a guy. He bounced around a couple places. Obviously, started in Cincy. It's probably the last time since he has been really successful is when they had Palmer under center.
Hmm.
I think he bounced out to Oakland after that for a few years, right?
Yeah. Oakland.
And then finished off at Arizona. So, put up good numbers. He's a good quarterback, and he's riding off into the sunset on, not too long ago he was in the Super Bowl. But his team struggled a little bit since then. But it's really been more injury related than anything else. Arizona is a decent team, so him retiring and Bruce Arians retiring at the same time probably isn't a coincidence either. I think Carson probably saw that Arians was leaving and says, "All right, I'm not dealing with a whole new coach and learning a new system," and said, "I'm done." So,
Right.
but all right, that's all we got. Let's get into the playoff matchups. We got some good games this weekend, Sean. First, we'll start in the AFC with the wild card. We'll go into the games and we'll kind of just give our picks, I guess, who we think's gonna win them.
Sure.
First game we got Jacksonville. The Jaguars are back in the playoffs for the first time in a long time. I think '07 is the last time they made it.
Damn.
Against Buffalo, the team that is ending its longest playoff drought in professional sports. '99 was the last time Buffalo made the playoffs.
Jesus, that was
So,
almost 20 years ago. That's crazy.
yep. So we got a battle of two teams that have been out of the playoffs for a long time, have been bottom feeders for a long time. What do you think is going to happen here? Now, keep in mind, Buffalo, the only reason they got in is because the Ravens choked that game against the Bengals away to lose their playoff spot. So Buffalo got in off of a little bit of help. They didn't really secure the position by themselves.
Um, Here's what I think is going to happen. I don't necessarily believe in fate, but I do think there are at times things that just kind of play out. And I think the Jags are going to win that game, and I think they're
Mm-hmm.
going to move on to Pittsburgh. And Roethlisberger recently was quoted saying that they want Jacksonville, and that is probably because pretty early in the year they got beat 30-9, and he threw 5 picks.
Mm-hmm.
So what I actually think is going to happen, I think the Jags are going to win that one, and they're going to come here to Pittsburgh. And I think much like the way the Steelers redeemed themselves last year against Miami, because if you recall, last season they went down to Miami. Everybody was like, "Oh, they're going to beat the Dolphins, no problem." Well, they lost. And then later that year, when the Finns came up here to Heinz Field, they got killed. So I think that kind of a similar thing is going to happen. I think the Jags are going to win that first round. I think they're going to come here to Heinz Field, and I think you know, I think Roethlisberger is going to wildly make up for that game. So
Gotcha. I am also going to pick Jacksonville. I think that Fournette and their defense gives them a really good chance in this game. However, this is the game that I'm going to give a huge spoiler alert on because Buffalo and the Bills locker room and their fans and their team might be rallying around the fact that they're in the playoffs for the first time in almost 20 years.
well, I'm sure
And
they
I
are.
wouldn't
Yeah,
be surprised to see the Bills get an effort win in this one. You know what I mean? Everybody
yeah,
on that team gives 110% because of where they are and what they are with their fan base right now.
yeah. I
So
mean, they
I'm
could do it.
I'm picking Jacksonville on this one, but it is one of my less secure picks, and I think Buffalo could end up surprising some people here because I think Buffalo is a huge underdog in this game, to be honest with you, and for most people's eyes.
Yeah.
But let's pop over to the second game in the AFC. We got the Tennessee Titans facing off against the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs ended up taking the AFC West with a 10-6 record. I believe they finished 10-6. I believe that's also what the Titans finished out with. Um, so the Titans obviously are the first wild card. They did. Actually, did they win that? No, but Jacksonville won the division, so the Titans are the wild card there, and the Chiefs are the divisional team, so the Chiefs are at home there.
Man, this one's a coin flip. I can tell you, Steelers fans are hoping that the Chiefs win and face New England because for whatever reason or another, they seem to give the Patriots trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the Chiefs would probably be my pick, but that one really is a coin flip in my opinion.
Gotcha. I'm also gonna pick the Chiefs on this one. I apologize. Tennessee finished 9-7, not 10-6. I just looked up the record there. Jacksonville did finish 10-6, so they took the division with a better record. But
Okay.
Kansas City, I am picking, and the only reason I am picking Kansas City is because of the playoff experience and the home field advantage. I don't know that I trust Mariota in his first time in a playoff game, coming in and winning a game on the road.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh,
so
wait. They're at Arrowhead.
they are at Arrowhead. Yes,
Yeah. That's
Kansas
gonna be
City has the home field advantage.
that's gonna be tough. Real tough.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely taking the Chiefs in that game. If that plays out with the way we picked, Jacksonville would play Pittsburgh and Kansas City would play New England in the second round.
Yep.
So, all right, let's pop over to the NFC. We've got the first game there is the Rams at home against the Falcons. Rams finished 11-5. Falcons are 10-6.
Man. That one could go either way too. I really think that game depends on which like which which of the which Atlanta team shows up.
Exactly.
because they've been kind of inconsistent. I think it's
That's
yeah,
literally what I was gonna say. Is that
yeah,
in those 10 wins they've looked great, but in those 6 losses they've looked awful.
right.
It's not like they lost a lot of close games this year. So you're right there. I'm right there with you. I think it all depends on does Atlanta show up, or do they kind of keep playing inconsistently the way they have. Um, Also going to be tough for them given that they're on the road and a new market team in LA. And the Rams don't draw hugely, but they're probably going to have the support for being the first playoff team in
Oh
LA at this
yeah,
point.
absolutely.
Um, if I had to make a pick, I'm going to go with the Rams on this one.
Yeah, me
But
too.
it's a shaky pick. I'm not 100% throwing anybody behind the bus there.
Yeah,
Um,
Sam.
so And then in the second game we have there, it's a actually NFC South rivalry game. We have the Saints at home taking on the Panthers.
Well, once again, I think it's a kind of a similar story in the sense, but with this one, I think it depends on which Cam Newton shows up.
Exactly.
He's all, again, he's very up and down. But I don't know. I feel like it's a bit hard to go against the Saints in this one.
Yeah, I'm picking the Saints too, and the big reason is I don't think Carolina's going to have an answer for that running back tandem. Um,
Yeah.
Ingram and Ingram and Kamara have been absolutely filthy this year, and I think they're going to continue to be absolutely filthy in the playoffs. The Saints are one of my sneaky picks to actually go all the way from the first round.
They could, man.
Um,
I could see
because
it.
of how good their offense is behind those two players. And on top of that, if someone does manage to shut down their run game, they still have Drew Brees, who is a freaking amazing quarterback, to
Yeah.
sling the ball if he needs to.
He is he's no joke. That's all for sure.
Yeah. So if that plays out the way we picked, LA would play Minnesota in the second week, and the Saints would play the Eagles.
The Eagles. Yes, I forgot about them.
Yeah. Um, I don't know I'm pretty sure the Eagles were probably pulling for Atlanta. I think they would rather have Atlanta than the Saints or the Panthers, to be honest with you, especially given the injury to Wentz. It's hard for me to be too confident with the Eagles making it past the first. They got the first round bye, so obviously they'll make it to the second round. It's hard for me to imagine they'll get past the divisional round because of playing Foles, but it could happen. We'll just have to watch and see. But I don't have a ton of confidence against any of those other teams in the NFC right now.
Yeah, we're a long way off this, and it almost for sure will not happen. But I can tell you, up in these parts, it'd be pretty crazy if there were a Super Bowl between the Steelers and Eagles. That'd be pretty nuts.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that'd be a good one.
probably not gonna
Um,
happen.
yeah, I mean, if I had to give you a Super Bowl pick in my end, I'm gonna go ahead and put my cards on the table here and say it's probably gonna be New England and New Orleans.
I could see that. Yeah.
Is what I'm gonna pick. But I'm not too confident with New Orleans on the NFC side. I'm pretty confident that New England's probably gonna make it out of the AFC. I'm hoping the Steelers can pull it off if they end up playing each other in the championship round.
Well,
But
as a kind of de facto Steelers fan, I want them to have to go through Foxborough and do it. I know that's kind of a suicide mission, but I
well, it's
feel
one of those
like
things that if you can get through New England, you should be able to get through whoever gets in from the NFC.
yeah, I
You
think
know?
I think they would beat anybody in in the NFC, but just to kind of cement the legacy of Roethlisberger. I'd love to see him have to go up into Foxborough, get a win, and then retire with one more ring. But obviously,
Yep.
it's gonna be much easier said than done. So
I'm right there with you, but we'll just have to watch it play out. But we got some pretty good matchups. I'm really excited about the NFC matchups in particular. There's no team on there with less than 10 wins right now in the first round. So,
yeah,
um,
it was a
it's
tight
gonna be a
race.
good year. It's gonna be a good playoff. It's gonna be a good one to watch.
Absolutely. All right, man. Well, hey, one last thing. Did you see
Mm-hmm.
in that game between Oklahoma and Georgia? Um, there
The
was
double overtime. playoff game.
Yeah, well, but there was a review there, and they came out and they awarded the Patriots a touchdown. So had to get that one in there.
Yeah,
Uh,
of course.
JK. Anyway, as always, man, thanks for all the info. We'll do it
Absolutely.
again next week after the wild card, and we will obviously have a larger picture of
Yep.
what it
Yeah, the
looks like.
next
So
couple episodes of this are probably going to be NFL dominant, just
yeah,
because
for
they're
sure.
in the middle of their playoff runs. But and there's not a lot going else in the other big four. But yeah, we'll let the first week of the playoffs play out, and we'll see what happens.
Things should be pretty interesting, and
Absolutely.
yeah. All right, man. We'll talk to you then.
All right. Yep. Catch you next week.
Later.